to have, which words are smaller, which words are bigger. Chris, is there one word in here that you see that kind of surprises you or interests you?
Repetition.
I think that made me very happy because that's one of my caveats for our work together. Is there one, anybody else have one that they're kind of surprised to see?
I'm not surprised, but I'm interested in resource poor.
And I think that may have to do with accessibility. We have a lot of conversation about that in this topic area. Anybody else have one that really stands out?
I have a question.
Yes.
So the biggest words obviously were used by more than one person. I see, like, I think it's 3 different sizes. So is that true that there's 3 different sizes?
It looks like that to me, like collaboration and understanding look larger than maybe.
So does that mean at least 2 people chose the same word?
That's around that would be the concept.
Okay.
It's a little hard for me to judge, but for sure, technology and communication and connectivity are higher than some of the other words. The one that I'm finding really interesting is overhyped. I think that speaks to a concern that sometimes we have about the new shiny thing that comes into our field. But I hope that by the end of our time together today, you won't feel that whoever wrote that or anybody else who's feeling that way will have a little balance to that concept. But this is a fantastic tool. The Menti is a fantastic tool because it's dynamic, because it works in the in-person class as well as the online class. I always look for ed tools or ed tech tools, as they're often called, that will help me transition between different worlds wherever I'm teaching, because I don't want digital literacy and digital skills to be relegated only to the online class. And so with that, welcome to this online web shop. I'm Jamie Allison Goldstein. I know some of you, I don't know all of you, but I have been working with Sabis for quite some time, but very intensely since 2020. And I know some of you probably were at my Zoom courses, and I know you've taken a lot of with Luis, the Google courses. So one of the things that I asked for anybody who could get on early was, what questions are you bringing to the course, to the work? And I think this is also really a terrific opportunity for your students to use this as an exit ticket or an entrance ticket. What's one thing you know about X? So you can see that I have a question about using, it's really this question. Let me see if I can do it in a way that would be easier for you to see. There's a way to do it. Oh yeah, if I click on it, then you can just see it writ large. So this question is really about, how do you cope, support, deal with the learner who, despite all your efforts, is not getting it? And we will touch on that today. Some of that comes from learner agency. The majority of it is related to confidence. And we know that our learners really struggle with that. We sometimes struggle with that. How can I implement digital literacy in the classroom? I'm really glad you're asking that, because that's kind of our raison d'etre. How can I implement digital literacy into the classroom? Yet again, our raison d'etre. How to make it intuitive? I think that's a really interesting question, because we're at this point in our lives with our experience in teaching ESOL. We can reach into our back pocket if something comes up. But with digital, most of us are not as familiar with the strategies and techniques. So we will address this issue of how do you make it so that it feels like a natural flow from the work you've done previously, the transfer, I call it. What are the gaps in your own knowledge about digital literacy and what's most important to know? I hope that some of those gaps will be filled in. but you know, there's this great thing called Google. How have others been able to successfully implement regular instruction of digital literacy classes with remote classes? You're going to have an opportunity to work with each other to address that. This is where I think we come to the access issue. If your work is phone only, then it is a challenge. But realistically, you can learn the skills on the phone that then transfer to a more Wi-Fi enriched environment. So I think we don't want to let the fact that we're working only on a smartphone in a classroom or in a situation where we're using cellular data limit our understanding of what it is we can prepare our learners for. So I think this is really valid, but I think we want to keep that open mindset about it. Aha. Easiest online tools or tools you can use for people with low digital literacy. We'll be addressing that today. So those are questions you brought in. If you have any additional questions you want to make sure we touch on, please put them in the chat. I will be watching the chat as we go through. Let me start our slideshow. Because what's a web shop without, oh, look, that's the end. Thank you so much. So glad you were here. Let's start with slide 1, shall we? Can anybody tell me anything you notice about this opening slide? Unmute yourself or put it in the chat. Do you notice anything about this slide?
It's purely visual.
Yeah, a lot of visual. There's some text, right? But it's largely visual, definitely.
In the chat, some folks are commenting that the 3 people are using 3 different devices.
Thank you. That's a lovely thing to have pointed out.
And that
Right.
everyone
I'd
has,
also like to add that they're all smiling.
They're all smiling and happy to be working on devices.
All 3 different devices.
3 different devices, and they're different ages, different ethnicities.
Mhm.
Do you have an idea where this picture came from? Well, I'll tell you, there's no reason to keep you on pins and needles. It's AI generated based on a prompt from me. Give me a picture of 3 adult learners, 3 diverse adult learners, each with a different device, sitting in a classroom. I didn't say happy. So this is one of the elements of digital literacy and working with in the digital technological world that is newer than we experienced in the pandemic times. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on AI, but what I am going to mention as we go through is that there is a space for AI that makes language learning and technology a little simpler to prepare for and for the learners to use. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. On the left side, you see that there are all these different tools that are part of digital literacy. So you can see the element and tools and concepts. The element of security is a big one, and safety is a big one. So if you are feeling like you're overwhelmed by all the elements of digital literacy, you can pick one and focus on that and expand on it with your learners. And the caveat that I have for you today really is, if you hear or see something or think about something today and you say, I want to try that in my class, try it. Then do it again. Then do it again. Then do it again. It's not about ping-ponging between different tools and different pieces of ed tech. It's really about giving students practice and slotting in different content, much like we would do with an instructional routine. So you don't want to spend the initial time teaching the tool, and then you want to give them practice with that tool again and again, and making sure that that tool is worthy. So
Jamie,
yes,
Brinton asked in the chat, which program did you use? I assume which
I
AI?
use Chat GPT-4, but the program that Chat GPT-4 uses is DAL-E, and that you can get onto. And what I appreciate about DAL-E is that it will not break copyright. So it will tell you that I can't do that because that breaks copyright.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Dory, for so much for my thing that I watched the chat.
I'll watch the chat.
And I want to also mention that Eileen mentioned that LXL, I think it's LXL. Oh, it's IXL. IXL is a great resource for students. So let's go back to the Menti for a minute. I want to see if you can scan the QR code using your phone. This is an important tool for your students who have limited digital literacy. If they can scan a code, they can get to a site without having to necessarily type in a URL. So you can scan the code. If you don't have your phone with you, you can go to Menti and enter. You can go to menti.com and enter, or you can click the link that was in the chat. I can put, Dory, could you put the chat link back in? Is that possible? Or would you like me to do it?
This chat link?
Yeah, it's on I put it in the chat for you earlier, but you know what? I have it right
Yeah,
here.
no, I get it. All right.
Got it? You got it?
The skills
Amy?
checklist, that one?
No, it's this one. Let me just pop it in. It's my fault. I
You did do it, but I lost it.
Where do you get the QR codes?
There
How
are
do
so many ways to get QR codes. One easy way is if you are using Chrome, you
Mhm.
can go up to the right corner on Chrome, and the drop-down menu gives you an option to share. And then when you click on share, it gives you the option to create a QR code.
Hmm.
Okay, so some of the questions that you're coming up with now, which are great questions, I would like to address some of the how-tos. I'd like to address in the resources folder for you. So if I don't go into great detail, because we have a lot of different things to talk about, please don't be offended. It's just that we are going to address things kind of as they come up, and then the specifics I can give you videos or links to. So let me go to the next slide. So I'm asking you what level learners you're thinking about today. That's the question that I am presenting to you right now, because it's really important to know who's in the room. And I can do this really quickly with a poll on a phone. So I can ask my students, how was your day? Or if it's a night class, or, I can get an emotional read of the room. I can get other kinds of commentary very quickly, as you can see. So looking at this pie chart, again, nice chart literacy. I can see that the majority of the people in the room are pink. No, the majority of the people in the room are looking at low beginning, NRS2. But we definitely have people that are thinking about beginning literacy, high intermediate, low intermediate, high beginning. What does that tell you about my job?
Well, like us, you will have to just accommodate a wide range of interests and abilities.
Exactly. And you picked a really good, now what it tells me about you is that nobody said they're teaching advanced learners, because this is about beginning and intermediate level learners. But you might have advanced level learners, and there's nothing wrong with that. We will certainly see things that you can pump up to an advanced level. Okay, let's go to the next one. I'd like a little bit more information about you. Which of these statements, how true are these statements for you?
Do you want us to put the answer in the chat?
No, you should see it on your Menti.
I see the questions, but I don't, oh, Can you walk me through this? Because I'm not sure what you're doing here. Like, how do
Okay.
you respond?
With the
Um,
QR code from before.
So Eileen, are you in the Menti on your phone?
Well, I'm on my computer. Yes, and I see the question. I am teaching 100% online, but where do I respond? At the
No,
bottom
what
here?
I'm asking you is, do you have your smartphone with you, Eileen? That's what I'm
I
asking.
do.
Okay, so what you would do is, I'm gonna close this out for a second, everybody. You doesn't
Okay.
hurt you at all. So Eileen, what you want to do with your smartphone is hold it up to the screen. You got it?
Yeah, I now just move the bar over to, so I am teaching 100% online. So I go to strongly agree
Yes.
and
Exactly.
then just submit.
Yes,
My learners have smartphones, kind of in the middle, and I have more than one device.
you do, because you're on your smartphone and you have your
Right, so,
laptop.
so that's, strongly agree. So then I just press submit.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Sorry. You couldn't do that from the computer though, right?
Yes, you could. If you just went on with the link that we have there, that's up on the chat, you could take it and it would open up this page, and then you would just move with your mouse or your trackpad.
Oh, because that's what I have, but I don't want to take up too much time, but I am on my my computer and I
Yes.
can't seem to move the bars. But I
That's
don't,
that's because you're not on the link. You're looking at my screen right now.
oh, right. Okay. Yes, you're right. Okay, good. Thank you.
What Eileen and I just did is a classic situation in a classroom, right?
Mhm.
And it wouldn't just be Eileen. It might be Laura, Eileen, Jenny, Molly, and all four of them would have different issues. So it's a matter of deciding what workarounds could you have quickly. So I knew I could ask Eileen about her smartphone and get her there quickly. But then I might, and Eileen, please don't take offense.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I might have stopped at that point because she was taken care of, and then gone over to Laura and said, okay, Laura, where are you having issues? But in the meantime, just like in a multi-level class, I would have asked, okay, everybody who sees, what the responses are, please write one sentence about what you see. So I can give a small task in the same way that I would in a standard ESOL situation. I would just give a wait time task to the students that had finished early. Or if they're in person, I would say, talk to your partner and come up with one conclusion that you have about the chart you see. I don't want to take away from the person who's struggling. I don't want to say, we'll get to you later. But at the same time, I don't want the people that have it to not be able to move forward. So it's the techniques that you all have already in the classroom. But what happens is that sometimes the frustration level on the part of the student who can't connect, or for you, when you feel like, I've explained it, why can't you do it? That's what we have to manage more than anything. So I'm looking at this right now, and I see that the majority of your learners have smartphones. The majority of you have learners with smartphones. The majority of you have more than one device, but not all of you are teaching online. So when you're teaching online, teaching how to use a tool is more challenging. Let's just put it out there. It is harder. But with scaffolds, screenshots, modeling, all of the things you do with challenging tasks in the classroom, it does make the process easier. And you want to make sure that you are doing something that has legs. It's not just an ed tech tool for an ed tech tool's sake. The more kinesthetic the task, sometimes the better. So what Eileen said about moving, showing somebody that they can move it on the screen, that is sometimes better than having a student type in, at least initially.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't think we're going to my next slide, but let me just check. Okay, yes, we'll come back to that. So our goals for today, we've already done a lot. Our goals for today, do you have a question, Dory?
Yeah, on that other chart, the Menti chart, what did those numbers mean? The 2.5, the 4.5? What did that?
That's how many, that's in terms of from 1 to 5, but strongly agree is 5.
Thank you.
Sure. So with the goals, we're going to look at opportunities to integrate digital literacy in our English language classes. I think a lot of us are already doing it to some extent, but we may not be as intentional about it. I'm going to share with you a toolkit that the World Ed Tech Education Center, Jeffrey Gumas, developed. And it's a wonderful source. My hope is that you leave here today with sources for you to draw on that match your learners' needs and your digital skill ability. And then we're going to, of course, go back to the root of all things and think in terms of how does backward design influence how we integrate digital literacy instruction. And I'd like you to think for a second, really, literally a second, which of these goals is most important to you? Okay, that was enough time. I'm putting you into breakout rooms to do a task. I think that sometimes the doing is the best way to find out where the questions are, where the gaps are. So here's the basic outline of what will be happening. You'll have 2 minutes to briefly meet your teammates and choose a representative. That representative will put into the chat what your team came up with, or will answer my questions. I think it's about answering my questions orally, actually. After 2 minutes, a slide will come into your breakout room and it'll have 5 questions. And the questions will be things that will require your knowledge of the digital realm. I'll leave it at that. You can collaborate to answer as many questions as you can. The goal is that you complete the questions, but probably my highest goal is that you either collaborate or figure out a great way to address the questions as a team. I'm not going to tell you how. I just want to, because a lot of digital literacy is about collaborating online. And then after 7 minutes, you're going to come back to the whole group and I will ask randomly the team representative to respond to the questions that you're given. What questions do you have for me?
Are you using menti.com right now to do this?
No, I'm not.
What tool are you using to create that slide that we're looking at?
I'm just using Google Slides. I'm sharing
Okay.
a Google. So I use Google Slides quite a bit because they are easy to transfer from device to device. And when I want, in my case, my learners are teachers, but when I want my learners to be able to create a slideshow and easily share it, Google Slides is a great way to do that. PowerPoint's lovely, but Google it's just a nice suite of tools. Okay, all right.
Just a quick question. You can send different slides to different breakout rooms?
No, you can only send the same slide to all breakout rooms. So what I'll be doing is for 2 minutes, I'll have my phone and I'll time for 2 minutes. And in that 2-minute period, I'm hoping you will all briefly introduce yourselves to each other. You will not give your CVs, your life stories, or the fact that you had to chase a squirrel out of your attic this morning. It's all about your name and something that you would like people to know about you in 2 minutes. Dory, how many people are we going to have in a room?
4 or 5.
Okay, so you figure in 2 minutes, that's 30 seconds-ish.
I can make them smaller. Do you want 3 or 4 people instead?
I think because we have people that don't have cameras, maybe we should keep it a little bit larger. And that's also good because then they can split up. Okay, so you have 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, what you're going to see is a slide will come up into your room. Okay, I'll share the slide into your room. And at that point, it's up to you to answer those questions and figure out how to answer those questions in 7 minutes. Ready?
What format are we answering the questions in, Jamie?
you can take notes. Well, Lee, I'll probably just ask you to report on it.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to write it on a worksheet or anything like that. Great question. All right,
Here we
going
go.
into those breakout rooms. Dory is going to open them up. Now, Dory, I don't see that I can pause recording. Can you pause recording?
Yes, I can. Stop recording, pause. Is that pause?
How'd it go? Great. So I didn't know how long it was going to take for the breakout rooms to close. But since we had 60 seconds, I should have closed them when I said you have one more minute, because there's a 60-second time frame. So that's something to tell the students. Sometimes you can use that as a 1 minute. When you see the breakout rooms are going to close, they have 1 minute left. So not everybody's here yet, but they'll be here shortly. So who was your representative in your group?
I am.
Okay, Rachel. Great. So we'll start with you. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, everybody's back. I'm going to start with Rachel, and I'm going to ask Rachel, in your group, which question was the easiest for people to answer?
Where are screenshots stored on a smartphone?
And what was the answer to that?
So we have iPhone and Android users, so they're two different things. iPhone is camera roll and Android is file and images.
So in the Android, are the file images different than a photo roll on an Android?
Mm-hmm.
So that's an important distinction for your students, because if you say camera roll, they're going to go look at their photos on an Android phone. So really knowing the different phones. Terrific. Thank you so much, Rachel. Let me see who got in my next group. In Chris's group, who is the representative? Oh, okay, unmute, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. You want the same question?
I'm going to ask you a new question.
Oh, no, too bad.
Okay. Which question was more challenging for your group?
I would say, how do you change the font size on a smartphone? I think that people needed to practice depending on what kind of phone they had. But we said use your fingers or maybe go to settings, but I don't think we really practiced that to see.
So you did not actually find out how you do it.
We had some guesses, but we didn't practice.
Okay, thank you very much. So that set up a need to know, right? And that is under the concept of accessibility. And that is an important digital skill, to be able to access the accessibility settings, especially for your older adults or vision impaired adults. It really makes a difference. Does anybody know where you increase the font size officially?
Yes.
Yes, where, Rachel?
On iPhones, it's settings and accessibility, vision, and then Android, it's display size and then font size.
Say the first one. I heard font size. I didn't hear the first part.
It's settings, display size, then font size.
Display. Okay, I just didn't hear the display. Okay. All right. How about group number 3, which is Eileen, Laurel, Lee, and Tim? Who's your representative?
Eileen?
Eileen. Okay, Eileen, I'm not going to ask you a question about what's on here. I'm going to ask you a question about how your process was. So did your group look things up use prior knowledge or some combination of both?
Combination of both.
Aha. And which one was used to the most, or was it just even Stevens?
Yeah, it was pretty equal on both sides. We had to ask Siri what QR was, and we all kind of knew off the cuff what where the photos were stored and how to get rid of close a window. And then different people knew more about how to change the font just from experience. And the reputable sources, someone had ideas and then we Googled it further and found out more.
Perfect. So that's a wonderful example of many different ways to get the information, to confirm what people already knew. Okay, terrific. And then our last but not least group of, I don't know if it's Adia or Adia, I'm so sorry. Jenny, Julie, and Terry, who is the representative?
I am the representative. This is Terry.
Hi, Terry. So Terry, my question to you is about E. What are some ways to determine the credibility of a site?
So we also did what the previous group did. We used our prior knowledge and then we went online and we found the answer to that, and we were all very much in agreement that it was a good way. And would you like me to tell you what they are?
I would love to hear that. If you
Okay, so you want to make sure that it's a .org. It's a trustworthy organization, a trustworthy author. You want to validate the information they're giving you. You want to make sure you check the date it was published, because you really don't want anything that's like, you wouldn't use milk in the refrigerator that's already expired. So you want to make sure your date's good. And you really want to validate. And there was another one like, I guess really and truly, is there a lot of common sense in this? Is it really thoughtful? So that was what we came up with.
Terrific.
Yeah,
And
we
I
were
was
good, by the way. We were a good group.
I know you're a good group. You're all good groups.
Of course.
I would add to that also the domain extension of .org, .gov, and .edu.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean that .com isn't, but then you have to use other validation tools for .com, because almost anyone can be a .com.
Perfect.
Terrific. So by and large, what gaps, what did you notice? What did you wonder about the work you were doing together? How does it relate to what your students might do in this situation? Molly, do you have any thoughts about that? You have to unmute, Molly.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I guess that students just like us some of them will have the experience to know the answer, and others will just Google it. And together they'll come up with good answers.
Thank you, Molly. And Sue Park, do you think that the students would have a lot of background information in your class on these particular questions?
I think it depends a lot, not to generalize too much, but I think it depends a lot on age and if they like to use their phone for more than just texting and calling. So I would say age and experience using the phone would determine.
Yeah. And sometimes it can surprise us, right? Because we could have a grandparent who has a very tech savvy grandchild and they've learned a lot. And we could have somebody who comes from a background where they haven't had exposure. So we can't make assumptions, but I think those are very important markers. Dory, are we recording again? I think so. Okay, sorry for checking recording, people.
May I add to that what you just said? That comment. I also find with my students that it's their prior work or career experience. I might have a student that is a little bit older, but came from a job where they had to do a lot, either online on the computer with their phone. So I think a prior work and career knowledge really plays into the whole profile.
Yes, I would agree. I think that's true for everything we teach, right? I mean, it's about, we have to know our learners. And in some cases, a task like this will help us get to know our learners, to know what kinds of things they know or don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. Let me just ask you this question, just as a reflection. I'm going to put up some skills and you just think about which ones did you make use of during this? And then I'd like you to think also, what 21st century skills did you apply in the process? I think that as much as those computer skills are important and they're key because they're the foundational essential skills to be able to operate in that world, what's even more valuable for our learners is recognizing that these skills are part of what they did. So tolerating ambiguity, self-awareness, I'm getting frustrated, I need to step away. How we talk about what we find, the interpersonal skills of collaboration, these are all really important skills. And I know those of you that are familiar with TSTM know a lot about these skills already, teaching the skills that matter, but this is where ESOL and adult ed instruction in general is focusing right now. These, they're being called life force skills. Sort of a, Charisse Moore coined that term. And so we're looking at when we teach, whatever we teach, whatever our content is, how do these skills come into play? And then I'd like you to think in terms of the language skills that you used when you were doing this. Obviously, you were using digital terms, but did you employ clarification questions with each other? Did you make some good old statements with be? Did you use modals for suggestion? Did you cite information? It sounds like you sure did when you went to the Google pages to find out the information about credibility. Did you talk about, conditionals are huge. If you do this, then when you do this, this happens. And then obviously all kinds of other language forms. Was there something that cropped up for you a lot that you were aware of as you were doing it? Anybody have a language form or set of vocabulary that you were using that you noticed in particular?
I'll jump in and answer that because I often struggle with teaching Chromebook skills at the same time as teaching English skills. And when I started doing it, it seemed to me that the two together were just too much. So now we sort of set the settings to Spanish. I teach Spanish speakers. So we set the settings to Spanish. And I decided to sort of separate the English lesson from the Chromebook lesson to just kind of keep my beginner learners sane and me too. And then gradually we add some of the language, but that's a topic that's on my mind is, am I doing, is that the right thing to do? Is it, would it be beneficial to do both at the same time? Would it be realistic? So that's some of the questions I struggle with.
And I think it's a really good question and something that it depends on what your goal is, right? It's what do you want to be able to do at the end of the day? If the ed tech tool, the Chromebook, is supplementary to them filling out a worksheet or looking at a picture, then maybe you're not focused on how they get there. But if you're really trying to help them navigate, problem solve in a technology-rich environment, they may or may not have a supervisor that uses Spanish to tell them what to do with the AI controller. And I just heard a really interesting talk by Anson Green, was actually last month, about how many of our immigrant learners are working in AI in factories. because it's very kinesthetic. But, and in some cases they are hearing Spanish. I lost Jenny, right? Did I lose her? Thought who we were talking to. I think she dropped out. Anyway, it's an important thing to consider. What I would say is it's the backward design model. You know, what do you want them to be able to do? What are you going to assess to find out that they can do it? And if they're going to be asked about the Chromebook vocabulary, if they're going to be tested using that vocabulary, then that has to be part of the lesson. But I think that's the important thing, is that you don't create lots and lots of difficulty all at once. You scaffold so that the learners can be step by step. There you are, Julie. Okay, I lost you. I thought it was Jenny, but I realized it was Julie. So I want to just give you a few minutes of teacher talk, so you can chillax. I'm not going to call on you, but let's just take a look through what we should keep in mind. And I think this goes in part to Julie's question or Julie's point. So when we're talking about digital literacy, when we're talking about teaching digital literacy skills, digital resilience, digital literacy skills, which are different than digital computer skills, it's a plurality. So you've got the basic computer skills, you've got all of these proficiencies, and you have the high leverage practices that we know we want to engage in good adult teaching. I see that I have a question. Let me just check and see. Oh, no problem. So the basic computer skills, and then around those basic computer skills, you have problem solving and network literacy and media literacy and information literacy. So all of these come into what we need our learners to be proficient in. And we can't do it all at the same time. It becomes too much. But when we're doing a reading, information literacy can come in. When we're asking a student to find a video or look at a video, create a video, media literacy comes in. When we ask a student to think about where they could go to get support, how will they know the social services they need? What places that's network literacy. And of course, digital problem solving is what we engage in daily. So we don't even really have to talk about that. But when we're digitally literate, so we've got those proficiencies, right? But when we're digitally literate, it means we can do these 4 things with information and this 5th thing of creating. So I am loath to say create information because disinformation is rampant. So I take it off. We create content. We find, evaluate, organize, and communicate information. And then we find, evaluate, organize, communicate, and create content. And this is, this is the general definition of being digitally literate. So today, you have already demonstrated digital literacy by finding information online, by communicating with each other the information. I haven't had you create anything. I didn't really have you organize anything, but you did evaluate. You evaluated each other's content, and you also evaluated what you found online. Those high leverage practices I talked about are still part of whatever lesson we teach. We want to prompt higher order thinking. We want to address academic language. We want to scaffold, and we want to promote collaboration. I know a lot of you know Betsy Parrish. This is, Betsy brings this up, but the people that started this conversation are Dora Ewart and Miri. So I think, this is not brand new, but it does walk hand in hand with the Massachusetts standards. It walks hand in hand with the College and Career Readiness standards. This is what we want to make sure is happening in whatever lessons we're teaching. And then, of course, there is the elephant in the room, which goes to that poor resources concept. Our learners don't have digital equity. Availability is an issue. Affordability is an issue. the adoption of different devices in different communities is an issue. You know, we want free Wi-Fi for all. It's not happening yet. But we want to make sure that we're aware of it. As teachers, it's very hard for us to make a dent in this, but we can let students know about low cost networks. We can let them know about places where they can get Wi-Fi, libraries, your school sites. So we can sing the song of digital literacy. We can help our learners in our classrooms, but it is still a little bit of a social justice issue. And by little bit, I mean a big one. And when we talk about digital equity, this is what we're talking about: the process by which an individual obtains daily access to broadband with the digital skills necessary to participate. So the equity that we can influence are the skills that we provide. So if we give them practice, even in the two-dimensional paper world of looking at a keyboard or looking at a printout of a spam email, if we can help them with those skills, then when they get their devices, they get their Wi-Fi, they'll have the skills to navigate. So I'd like to ask you to Menti one more time. Would you go to your phones? You can scan, or you can go to menti.com, or you can go to this link, which will be in the chat in a minute. And then I'll share the Menti with you right here. So what you can see with this lovely dot poll is that we're a pretty accomplished group. Where do we have a gap? Can you see what right away where we have a gap?
Creating and accessing QR codes.
Yeah, so it's a pretty quick way, and it's anonymous, right? So if there were 4 skills that you wanted to put on your list for a month that you wanted to work on with your students, you could put an image, Menti will allow you to do an image. You don't have to use a digital poll. If you're on Zoom, you can use a Zoom poll. But this lets the class see right away, oh, well, we should start with this. This is learner-led. So I won't spend a lot of time on, you know, all the ones that are 18. I might head over to the credibility because that's a little bit less, but not much. Oh, here comes more. And what I like also is that if you look down at the bottom of the screen, I can annotate that for you so that you're sure to see what I'm talking about. If you look down at the bottom of the screen, you see that I see how many people are participating. So if I didn't see 19 here, I might not know that there, you know, that 19 is the top. So this means everybody can upload or insert an image. That's giving me that information. It's also possible for people to like or comment. That's another option that Menti provides. Now let me ask you the same question about your learners. It looks really different, doesn't it? I want to point out that that center one, recognizing toolbar icons, is huge. And it's an easy one for us to teach because it's essentially vocabulary, right? The idea of what's a text box, what's bold, what's italic, what's these are all things that fit very strongly into writing strategies, the writing process. They also are important from the standpoint of communication on the phone or online emails. So we really want to work with that. That's clear to me. That screams out at me, as does the credibility of a website, which is also an easy concept because we can have the student look at the URL, look at the date. These are all things that are really natural for us to teach. That's not a huge stretch. So I see that only 11 people participated this time around, where 19 participated last time. So that shows me that people got tired of doing the Menti. And that happens.
I wouldn't assume that people got tired. I would assume that people didn't have, like, instead of, if you submit with no answer, then it's 0. Well, people just figured they don't have anything to say, so maybe they didn't submit it.
That's a really good point, Lisa. I just was going with the tired part, but you're right.
Lisa, I agree with you. That was my case. I just felt as though I was really kind of shocked. It was shocking to me to realize I really couldn't answer for my students, that I just felt that they didn't really have any of those skills.
Well, that is a very important thing for me to hear, because
me too.
That is letting me know that our work here is done. You are ready to go, Laura. Head out there, find out what your students know. Okay, so there's a couple of ways to approach instruction with digital literacy, integrating it, especially with our level learners. So the first way, which is probably the one that we would target first, is using digital content as ESOL content. For example, if we look at some essential language strategies plus digital skills. So to help learners practice listening for gist or listening for details, I'm going to use my annotation tools to do something that helps beginning level learners all the time, instead of having to look at everything at once. I can mask, right? So if I want to help my learners listen for gist and listen for details, I could do that listening task on computer basics, on how-tos, based on what my learners are interested in doing. There are so many videos on that. The tools that they would be using to practice with, and I could give this to them to listen at home. They would be working at the scrub bar. They'd also be learning to adjust the speed of the video, which is a great thing that we can do. Let's see if I can make this smaller. I think I can. Yes. And I'll just do another one because I'm so fancy. Okay, and then from a reading standpoint, we know we want learners to be able to skim a text for gist. We want them to scan for important info. We want them to be able to identify sources. You'll notice that none of this is leveled. These are strategies. These are language strategies that you use from beginning literacy through advanced. So I'm taking a more global approach. The content that I would show, the tech article or the phishing email or the website, would be appropriate to the learner's level. Now, in some cases, the way that I'm going to make it appropriate is I'm going to use some tools to simplify it. So if I get a tech article and I think it's really too hard for the learner to access, I can look for simpler articles, or I can pop it into ChatGPT-3, the free version, and I can ask that AI to simplify the article for me. Now, does that mean it's going to be perfect? No, but it's going to do the first round, and then I can go in. So it saves me a huge amount of time initially. It's a thought partner, if you will. But the tools that the learner is using at the same time that they're doing these language strategies is they're swiping, they're scrolling, they're annotating, they're doing site navigation. So these are all integrated with essential language strategies. And then last but not least, let me raise this up because I'm wondering, can you see it clearly? It's a little, oops. Oops, went to the wrong thing. Erase this. Come on. It's the one danger with when you do annotation. That's right. You wanted to see all my slides at once, didn't you? Okay, let's just look at that bottom one. I'm not going to touch anything. For writing, you know, we have drafting, we have word choice. It's a big deal, right? Word choice. We want learners to write what they mean and to be specific, to be creative, and then self-editing and formatting. And the content that we can use for that are emails and texts and blogs, and we can have students access text tools. So spell check is great. I use spell check every single day. I have poor eyesight now, very disappointed about that, but I also am a sloppy typer. And so I would send the worst emails out if I did not have spell check. You know, it stops me and says, did you mean that? Did you mean that? Having learners make use of menus so that they know how to use a drop-down menu to find what it is they want to put into that email, that text, that blog. Any thoughts? Am I missing anything? Okay. Just erase. And move on. So North Star, give me a thumbs up if you've heard of North Star. Thank you. North Star has numerous videos that you could use as listening practice. It's not a bad thing to use digital content for listening practice because in many cases, learners are interested in this content. Of course, you have to find out if they are. But in this case, the video, and I'll play the video for you, I'd like you to think about what would you ask learners to listen for in this video? This is basics. This is getting started on a computer. And then the second question I'll have for you is, once learners have demonstrated their comprehension, which tasks of these three might you use in your class? Because remember, it's still instruction. It's still moving through. The goal is that you will have this knowledge, you'll be able to express this knowledge, and at the end of the class, I'll be able to tell that you can express this knowledge. So we need more than just the listening task. We need the ability for the student to demonstrate that they have comprehended and absorbed this information. So let me go ahead and share. I want to make sure I'm sharing sound, because that would make it very sad.
There are several kinds of computers. Desktop computers are big and heavy, and so usually sit on a desk or a table. To use a desktop computer, you need to have all of the parts: system unit, monitor, keyboard, and mouse. The system unit does the work, the monitor shows you what's happening, and the keyboard and mouse let you control it. The parts need to be connected to each other and plugged in. Laptop computers are small, and you can carry them around. The system unit, monitor, touchpad, and keyboard are all one machine. A laptop computer runs on a battery that's inside the machine, and so doesn't need to be plugged in all the time. Tablets and smartphones are even smaller. They don't need a mouse or keyboard. You control them just by touching the screen. The system unit, monitor, keyboard, mouse, laptops, tablets, and smartphones are all called hardware. Hardware doesn't know what to do without instructions. The instructions that tell the hardware what to do are called programs, or software. There are several kinds of computers.
Don't want to listen to you again. Thank you very much. Now, one thing you may have noticed, those of you that have worked with focused listening, is that's a lot of content. And even though it's 2 minutes, I would never play that as one piece for the learners. I would chunk it. If I have advanced learners or high intermediates, I might play it once for them to get the general gist, and then after that, chunk it. But certainly for beginning learners, I would chunk. You also probably noticed something else, that there were closed captions. So the closed captions would be something I would put on after the listening exercise, because I would want the students to be making use of their listening skills. So what would you ask learners to listen for in something like this? Can you think about? You can put it in the chat, or you can unmute.
Maybe parts of a computer or.
Nice, Julie. Okay, so maybe some vocabulary, tech vocabulary, Will, exactly. Maybe the first time through, I might ask them to listen for all the tech vocabulary, listen for all the computer words they hear. You know, something simple like that, or give them a checklist, and when they hear it, they check it off. We're getting a little bit of feedback. Listen for words or terms they do not recognize. Terry, that's a step up for sure. That would be a more of an intermediate level listening. The point is, this is a listening task using a video. I don't have to show the video, but it really would work very well without being able to see it. So I can do the mixed media approach. I can use my focus listening strategies with the students, have them predict what they're going to hear, then have them listen, then have them check their predictions, then have them listen for details, then have them maybe listen again and check and hear the whole thing at once. What did you notice? What did you wonder afterwards? So once I've done that lesson, number 2 is, what would you have them follow up on? How would you follow up this? They have this technical vocabulary now. They have some of this information. What might you have them do?
I would probably have them link it to a photo or show me, have someone demo, point to the different words, vocabulary words on their list.
Yeah, so that would be a good follow-up practice task, right? To make sure that they had the vocabulary. Now, how do we help them apply it? Right? So maybe when they're doing this price search and report, they're looking for a laptop, or they're looking for a smartphone, or they're looking for a tablet. That, it's a simple search, but we're having them make use of the internet. We're having them make use of digital literacy skills in terms of following up. They could do the information gap. Those last 2 don't require any digital. But that first one, it gets them going.
There are some.
Oh, stop it. She just wants to keep talking. With close reading, which is something we know is so critical for our learners in terms of their transition to workplace training, obviously higher ed, but in terms of even reading material that their children bring home from school, being able to read closely and find out what is the most important information on this, what do I need to retain, what is it I don't understand, how do I find out, or how do I figure out what it is I'm not understanding. This is very frequent in our emails. Every time I see this kind of stuff, I just think feel so sorry for people who don't have skills, because they click on stuff all the time. So how am I going to help my students learn about this type of spam and phishing? One way is that I'm going to have them click on the address to see whether it's really coming from the site it says it's coming from. So this is a lesson that I'm teaching, but they can do it as well on their phones or on a Chromebook. I, of course, I'm going to make that larger for the student. I'm going to when I'm explaining it, I'm not going to ask them to read this tiny thing on the screen. I'm going to make it larger, and I'm going to ask them questions. You know, do you see FedEx anywhere in this address? Do you see, what do you see in this address? So it's helping them connect the skill of their safety online with close reading. I can also, at the higher level, show where the grammar errors are. And then later can give them examples and have them find the grammar errors, because that's one thing you always look for with a spam. Our learners are probably getting more spam in their texts. So we have to talk about what kinds of spams come into text. Students can bring examples into class. But again, this is using digital content as English language instruction. I really like that we have now the ability to use meaningful social media as reading tasks because it's chunked. There's also an interesting element with the hashtag, because hashtags are picking out the gist and in some cases the details that are most important with the post. But this is a great little post. Tells us great information. You don't want to see the co-aid post that says it costs $675 to attend co-aid, but I like this one. Another thing you might want to consider if you haven't already is writing a class blog. So a blog allows the students to put small chunks of writing up. You give them a QR code like this. And when you get these slides, you'll have access to this. And then, you know, you give them an opportunity to choose what they want to write about. And then the students, this is an example. I want to write about nature. And then someone can comment and reply. So you're giving students an opportunity to, in the class live, to interact online, but to also put their writing skills to work. And again, like I mentioned earlier, making use of those writing tools is fantastic. You know, helping learners make use of the spelling and grammar, helping them use the thesaurus, showing them how they can get the word count. I mean, that's a really great task. The word count is so interesting because students don't recognize, if you're asking them to write a paragraph and it's, you know, a 5-word, now that 5 words isn't a paragraph, maybe in Faulkner, but not for our purpose. So let's take our journey now to digital literacy and backward design, because those were all examples of the content providing the digital literacy skills that, you know, we were deeply in there. Actually, before I do that, may I just show you 2 things that I think you will be very happy to see. The first one is the Seattle Digital, and you have the link for this and I'll put it in the chat, the Seattle Digital Equity Initiative skills framework. And this particular set of skills gives you an idea of what types of skills would be useful for people from different contexts. So if I look at the beginning level learner, for example, oh, it's going to give me a hard time doing this, isn't it? Okay, well, trust me. Let's see if by any chance I'm going to get it. It's doing a number that it's not getting me to the place, but they have tabs at the bottom. I'll get you the right link, I'm sorry. But they have a set of skills. And Laura, this would be useful in terms of if you wanted to, for example, list your skills for parents or your skills for senior citizens. You could look for 2 or 3 of those, and that would be what you could check. Can you do this? So it can create a can-do checklist. Very disappointing that I'm not getting this up here, but maybe when you're in your other groups, I'll pull it up for you. The other one that I know you will be delighted about is the glossary. So let me find the glossary. Are you seeing my screen, everybody? Okay, good. All of a sudden,
Yes.
I'm a little worried about that. You know, all of a sudden, I have done that before. Have you ever done that before? Done lots of talking and then people say, teacher, I can't see.
I am wondering where that website is, the Seattle. I can't quite see the website name.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Terry. I will, what you want is actually what I'm giving you here, not the framework. So I'll put that up in the review, in the chat in a moment. Okay. This is a crowdsourced digital skills glossary, and you have access to this. I can link to the most current version, obviously. So obviously, they've done some changes. And what you see over here on the left, well, now in the center, are the different topics. And each topic has a set of words. It's supposed to link. Let me do it as slideshow. So each topic has a link, and then it gives you the list of words, and then each word has the definition using in a sentence, and the really cool thing, it has the pronunciation linked. So you have with this glossary, you have the ability to copy it to your computer. It's an open educational resource. You can make any changes. You can provide 2 of the slides. You can provide all of the slides. Let me put the link in the chat for you. Oh, thank you, Sue Park. No, that's the library, right? So what you gave is the library, and in the library is the digital skills glossary, which is what I'm sharing with you right here. So the digital skills library, which is lovely as well, and gives you lots of ways to teach. The glossary is right up here at the top. And for the library, this is the Seattle Digital Skills set of areas for their framework. So for example, if you wanted to teach your student the gateway skills, which are the essential skills, the foundational skills, you click on this, it gives you the list of the skills, and then here are different tools that will help you teach the different skills. So Supark, that's a wonderful tool that you put in here. I was thinking that the glossary would be a little more contained, but I definitely think that some of you would really be able to hop right into this. So please make use of both of those. So those are tools that you would use to actually teach the skills, kind of what Julie was talking about, where Chromebook and English language coming together can be overwhelming. But if you treat the content, for example, how to open a link, if you treat the content in the same way that you would treat any new content in ESOL, then you're going to find the same level of success. Where you're going to come up against some issues are students who have a tremendous lack of confidence or fear around technology, your own concerns about technology, and access, the learner's access. But most of these things can be done very successfully on a smartphone. And my advice to you is to always try things out before you bring them to the classroom. So with backward design, we are looking at these 3 multiple questions, actually. What do my students need to know and be able to do? At the end of their work with the lesson, what will they know? What will they be able to do? How will they and I know they know it? And how will they and I know they can do it? So the first thing is, I want to know what is it they're going to be able to do? And then what will they know? And then how am I going to know they can do it? And then that last piece, the very last piece, is what can I give them to support them on that journey? So it's not about finding the activity and then saying, ooh, this is cool. How do I teach this? So what basic computer skills will learners be able to demonstrate? That's the question I'm going to put in now to when I'm thinking about my classes. What digital literacy skills will they develop? Notice that I'm saying develop. I'm not saying that they're going to have it. It's a one and done. It has to be repeated. So let's go to something that would be around digital literacy skills with our content, our ESOL content. We're not talking about now, we're teaching the vocabulary or we're looking at the parts of a computer or how to write an email. Those are all valid content, but let's talk about content that works right out of what it is we're already teaching. So maybe you're not teaching the most popular baby names. I get that. But there are tasks and activities and concepts that go along with what we're teaching. So if we're talking about identity and names, then maybe finding out what the most popular names are in the United States or the most popular names in Korea or the most popular names in Mexico could be a fun search, could have some high interest. The population of a state or a country, the forecast for the weekend. What content area in our ESOL work would that third bullet relate to? Bueller?
I would say well, obviously, you know, weather vocabulary, weather related vocabulary, and the future tense, or maybe the, you know, going to.
Terrific. And Sue Park also wrote calendar. Okay. How about first aid classes? Time zone we know would be about time, right? How about first aid classes? What would that relate to?
Body vocabulary and how to talk to a doctor and things like that.
Okay, Molly, thank you. What else, Molly? You were saying something?
Health and safety, which is actually what we're working on right now at the school where I teach.
Lovely. How did I know that? I don't know. How about the salary for a solar installer? Lee, you're right, commands. How about the salary for a solar installer? What type of content in your textbooks or on Burlington would you be related to?
Occupations.
There you go. Okay. So if I want to help, I already asked you this question, but see how I just come up to ask you. If I wanted to help you practice searching for information, I could give you what it is you have to type in the URL, in the address bar. So I could give you the scaffold for that, and your result would be what you'd share with me. So I'm not asking you to come up with the search language. I'm providing you some of the search language. So what I'd like you all to do right now is pick one of these on your smartphone and take 2 minutes and get the information just for one of them. And I'd like you to put what you found in the chat. And for the first one, you'd only have to put the first 2 names. You don't have to write all 10. Thank you, Will. You were very speedy. And where did you get that information?
It was just the first hit in Google for salary for solar installer mass. There's Google gives like a table sometimes for data.
Right. Did it give you but did it cite? Usually it cites where it's from.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's from ZipRecruiter, which I think is reputable.
Well, yeah. And so one of the things that we might then do is compare what I might say to you, can you go down one, see if you can find the occupational Outlook handbook or the .gov one and see if they have a different answer. From sources across the web. Okay, Chris. Yeah. So Henry and Luke, so one of the things that I could do with my students is give them the site to put into the search. So one of the most reputable ways to get the top names is to go with the Social Security Administration. So if they type SSA, then they would get the SSA list. Camilla and Harper. Oh, nice. So Lisa's got $26 an hour, and looks like that's what Will got as well. So Molly, you know, you're doing health and safety right now. So having learners find the first aid class that's in a first aid class that's in their area could be something that would be of interest to them, especially if they're looking at CNA or any kind of medical career. Names.org, great. What time it? Nobody wants to know what time. Oh, there it is, Molly. You found out the time. So it's very late in Tokyo right now. So that's the thing. If I put 9 o'clock in Boston is blank in Tokyo, and we know that it is not 9 o'clock in Boston right now in our class, it's 12. Is it 12:36? Yes, it's 12:36. So then I ask you, okay, so if it's 9 and 11, what time is it now in Tokyo? Now, obviously the students could do the math, or they could ask, you know, so it's building a need to know. And it's also engaging in a search for information, which is part of digital literacy, and evaluating. 2:36 in Tokyo. AM? PM? Eileen, you're not telling me. Thank you.
Sorry, I had myself on mute.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to go into, oops, I want you to choose one of these breakout rooms, and I want you to think of a simple search. So I'm going to set up the rooms real fast. So there'll be a health room, a civics room, a safety room, and a job skills room. You get to pick which room you go into. And when you're in that room, I'd like you to work with your colleagues to develop a simple search. What would be the sentence or the prompt that you would give the students to create the search in one of these topic areas? You're going to have 5 minutes to work together. You don't get to listen to my voice anymore. So right now, what you do is look at the bottom of your screen, and you will see a join. And you can choose which room you want to join. And if you're having any problem, just let me know and I can help you. Somebody needs to go in with Lee.
I'm having issues.
Okay, Julie, where would you like to go?
Health.
Okay, so I just assign you to health. And this is why I can support students who are having problems, and the ones that know what to do are able to go in. Chris, are you having trouble? I can't hear you, Chris. I'm sorry, you're mute.
There we go. I can't find that thing that you said to click.
Scroll.
It's on your, oh, go ahead,
On-
Dora, go ahead.
Yeah, and also may I suggest if anyone's not sure where to go, civics could use another person. There's only one person in there. If anyone, oh, she just left. Never mind. She was lonely. She probably thought she was the only one.
Julie, are you still here? Or are you frozen? I think she's frozen. Okay. So Chris, where would you like to go? I'll send you there.
I'd like to go to health, please.
Okay. There's a lot of you in health.
There we go. Oh, there it is.
Okay. Brenton, are you having trouble getting in? Oh, Tench. No, you're Brenton, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't see any link to join.
Okay, just tell me where you want to go and I'll help you with it later. But let me,
Maybe job skills, I suppose.
sure, you're there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Got it. Thanks.
Sure. You want to pause?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please put your, if you had one for your group or if you had individual, go ahead and put your search concepts, your prompts in the chat. So we'll have a copy of them. Because we saved the chat, and that way I can send you the chat with people's ideas. Ooh, dangerous jobs. So, Julie, one of the things you could do with the qualifications for mental health, oh, I guess that was Will, sorry. Qualification for mental health counselor is put qualifications mental health counselor, you know, because they, and then you might want to put where, like MA. So you might want to give them, or you could put qualifications dash, and then let them choose what occupation they wanted to look for. Yeah, that Rachel, that most dangerous jobs in the US is really interesting. Do you know what the #1 injury is? I didn't know this, but I had looked it up at one point.
Logging workers is what we found.
Logging workers?
Yeah. And it wasn't me who came up with the idea, but our group came up with it. It was good. Good idea.
One of the things that I've seen though is that I think the #1 injury is falls and back. So because that's such a high risk, it makes really good sense to bring that in, you know, have the students look at how do you protect your back, 5 ways to. So these are all things that you can put in. Tell me your thoughts about the search. What you were thinking about it. Did it seem like it resonated with something you could do with something you're teaching this week or next week? I'm seeing nods. Nods are nice.
It's perfect for what I'm doing tonight.
One thing that Rachel commented when we were talking about different possible searches, which was helpful, but she noticed that some search ideas would be open-ended and lead to something like a list, like 10 most dangerous jobs, and then you could explore further, and then others would be more closed, like just answering one question. And so that was a helpful way to think about how to frame our search terms.
Nice, really nice.
The process that our group went through with the safety was interesting too, because, you know, we were maybe like 4 people and we all searched at the same time for the dangerous jobs. And we all got a lot of different results, which we talked about, because some would put up like in industries or the most dangerous factory jobs. Others would mention like children or versus in different states or the US. So it was just interesting to all search the same thing and compare our results.
And the other aspect of that I think is so good is going beyond the first answer. Because now with Google in particular, and I found this out because we're revising the Oxford Picture Dictionary and I needed to look at the search page, and the search page has changed 100% since 2016. So where it used to be that you got the link up at the top, now the link is at the bottom. There's a picture of the website that comes up at the top. But even more than that, AI gives, I think, Chris, you were talking about, maybe it was Will that was talking about, that you get a summary, an AI summary of information up at the top now. And that can be good or not, because it stops you from going into a deeper search. So this is a wonderful opportunity to do things lightheartedly, you know, best baby names or the weather in such and such, you know, just to do that as a quick little aperitif at the beginning of the class or at the end of the class. But you can also really attack this as a digital literacy exercise, because as you mentioned, is it Sarale?
Yeah.
Sarale, as Sarale mentions, the difference in responses, and how do you determine which one is credible? Or how do you make your search more specific? And all of that comes up organically from the first search that's done. You also can pair your learners up. If they're in a breakout room together, one person can share the screen and they can look up together. Or if you're side by side in person, they can work together. That helps a lot with confidence, making sure that learners have their buddy. If you have a multi-level digital class, in other words, they all have different levels of proficiencies, you may want to take aside a small low literacy digital group and work with them much as you might work with your low literacy learners in a beginning level class. Work with them so that they have your attention where the rest of the class is on a task. So they look X up, they write a short report about it, they videotape themselves giving the report. That takes a good 15 minutes while you're working with the lower level learners or the less digitally proficient learners. Before we leave today, I wanted to show you a couple of things. It's a show and tell time. So I can do things like, if I have a picture dictionary page, for example, and I ask the students to look at the bathroom page and what's something they need for their bathroom. I mean, this is very consumer-ish, capitalist, but it works really well in terms of a search. So they decide what they're looking for, and then they search for it, and they search under images. Oops, sorry. And when they search images, they get these different examples, and then they choose which one they want. Which one is better? Which one is cheaper? Which one is closer? So it gives them an opportunity to use a lot of language, but they're talking about something that they're generating. It's what they're interested in looking up. I can also do it with looking for a situation. This is problem solving, right? So Mark is looking for blue work pants under $50. Where can he find them? Joe needs a red blazer for his job. What's available? So this kind of language that means it's a word problem, right? Because they have to look in, they have to see work pants, the color, and under $50, not $50, but under $50. And so they have to search for that. And then you can shorten the process by having a place for them to look up any language that they don't know. So it doesn't have to be a picture dictionary. They can look up, if they don't know what work pants are, they can look up the term online. Anytime you want students to quickly be able to look up a definition, a synonym, or a translation, they can use word plus def. So if they say enthusiasm plus def, they will immediately get the definition. They'll see that at the bottom, they often have a translation, but on the right-hand side, you see what happens if they write enthusiasm in Russian, enthusiasm in Spanish. A lot of them already have their translation, but this is a nice way to give them a pronunciation guide as well, because they usually have the pronunciation of it in English next to the translation. Okay, I'd like everybody to go to this site. I'm going to give you the link because I just want you to see it. Boy, I've been getting spam calls all day. Don't know any of these people from Montana. Don't know why they're bothering me. Oops, sorry. I'd like you to find the EdTech integration. Here it is. Toolkit and fiddlesticks. Not getting the right thing. Let me pull this up. So do you see the link in the chat? Great. So this is not a student tool. This is a teacher support tool. So it helps you build integration of EdTech strategies with different goals that you would have. So for example, if I click on digital skills, that's what I'm going to start with. And I want to teach information skills. Then I look at these different skills and I say, oh, well, we've been working on search strategies. Let me see what there is on that. And what it shows you is different ways, different tools that you can use. It also will give you an example of a routine that you can do. So here's an activity that uses this skill, a personal glossary using search tools and spreadsheets. We don't have the time. This would be a workshop in and of itself, but I wanted to make sure that you had access to this, because you can look at it by tool. If you want to teach communication, here are some routines that will help you teach communication. If you want to teach creation of content, here are some ways that you can do that. But I think for our purposes, you might want to start with the digital skills, because based on what you did on the Menti, you're not 100% sure, or you think your students don't have a lot of these skills. So it might be a good idea, first of all, to familiarize yourself with what the skills are, and then to see which skills your students have, and then start teaching those as you go along. Any thoughts about the EdTech Integration Toolkit? Do you promise me that you'll take a look at it?
Jamie, I can't figure out how to get it as an app. It just seems to be in the browser on my phone, and I can't find it in the App Store. Is that what you
No,
intend?
it's not an app in that way. It's just you use it on your phone in that you just go down to the bottom. It's a special kind of tool. So if you let me so when you get into it, share the app. So when I share this with you, oh, it's the same thing exactly. When I share this with you, you just use it in your browser in this way. So if you click on the bottom, if you touch any of these things on your phone, you have to go to it on your phone in the browser, your phone. It's not an app store.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I can put a QR code to it, which will make it easier to get there. I'll put that.
No, I didn't. Yeah, you put the QR code before, and I got to it on my phone. I just, I don't know. It's not. Yeah, I got
It's a little
confused because it's not an app.
It's not an app, right? It's built from something special called Glide.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just experienced something too on my phone. I clicked on something that was not related to it, and got as far as it asking for my credit card, and then I stopped.
Oh, no, you don't want that.
I know, but I got confused too, because I thought it was asking me like to install something, but it was an unrelated thing.
Okay.
Be forewarned.
Yes, thank you. So I want to thank you. One thing we did not focus on today so much was the concept of resilience, but you have all demonstrated it beautifully. Digital resilience is the ability to transfer what you already know how to do in technology to the new technology that comes out, to the problems that you face, and to generally participate in things like this without screaming. So thank you. You've done a brilliant job. And I will be, when you get your email with the link to this session, there will also be a link to the resources that will have these slides, that will have links to additional materials. And I've just found that it's a little easier to do it that way, because then everybody just gets it right to their inbox. So thank you so much. Before you leave today, if you wouldn't mind putting in one word that summarizes how you're going to make use of what you've heard today, or how you're feeling, I would love to see it. Otherwise, I know it's time to go. So whatever you need to do. But I thank you so much for your time. And
thank you. And can I also add, are you going to all be getting an email from Kate Anderson with an evaluation form? If you could please fill that out, it really helps us know how to meet your needs best. It also feels good when you say all those nice things about how great Jamie is.
Okay, that seems like.
But no, we take all of your feedback to heart. There's questions about what else you would like. Also, it really helps us to know what you're going to do with what you learned today and what you would like more of. So it really helps us help you. So thank you. And you get the recording. As a reward for filling out the evaluation form, you will get a recording of the session.
Certainly, we will add your email for sure. I put that down.
And thanks. I just didn't get the emails with the links. So I somehow, my coworker and I evaded the list.
Same,
Yeah,
same.
you're not the only ones. Yeah, I emailed Laura.
Same here.
Something happened. There were several people who were not on the registration list. I don't know what happened. I apologize. I'm glad you got in. Not everyone did.
Well,
I have
thank
a
you.
very quick question, Jamie.
Yes.
How is it easy to figure out how to do set up the breakout room so that students can choose their own breakout room? I've never done that before.
Yes, it's very easy. What's not easy is that getting the students to choose their room. That it's hard sometimes for them to find it, so you need to use screenshots. What you do is when you go into the breakout room window, I don't
have
think
to be a host. Who's asking that? Lisa?
Yeah.
Lisa,
I think I can make you want to just do it right now? Do you have a second?
if you make her a co-host, yeah.
Yep, I'll make you a co-host. And then you can see what we're seeing. Make co-host. Okay.
And then share screen, Lisa, while you do it, so we can all see it.
Okay, I have Jamie's screen up on my, can you stop sharing your screen, Jamie?
Of course.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna share my screen.
Super.
Is that okay? I don't want to take other people's time, anybody's time.
So you're gonna walk her through it, Jim? Oh, you got it.
Yes, absolutely.
So what am I doing?
Now
You have even more tabs than I do. That's awesome.
Oh,
Oh my God.
Okay,
Look at
you want
those
to be on your Zoom? You
I'm
want to
a
be on
hoarder, yeah. I'm gonna be on the Zoom one. Where is
I think
that?
she just wants to stop sharing right now, right? Or no? Oh no, she wants to share the Zoom screen. That's right. Where is that? All those.
Yeah, you got it.
And then?
I'm not seeing the Zoom screen. I don't think you shared it, is what I think.
Okay, let me try again.
You might be sharing just that page on your screen instead of sharing your whole screen, Lisa.
I feel like I don't want to take up people's time for this.
Go to the bottom, Lisa, where it says Zoom. Maybe that's.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting when I click on the Zoom.
Yeah, what I was going to say is close your Chrome window or your whatever window it is. Close your Chrome window so we see your Zoom window. I think that's the problem.
The little X at the top. X out of that.
Your red button.
My red button, okay.
Go over to the left, all the way to the left. Keep going to the left. Get more, a little more. There you go. Close it. Close it.
It won't close.
Well, then just try moving the window down. Just try pulling it down.
Like that?
Yeah. And now go to your Zoom.
Okay.
Lisa, I think you may need to stop screen sharing and then start again. And instead of just sharing the Chrome page, you have to share your whole screen so that we see whatever you're doing, not just that one.
I feel like I'm totally illiterate right now, and I don't want to
This is
take up
great to
people.
see. Also, I'm not a Mac person. I don't understand you Mac people, what you love so
I'm
much.
very comprehensible. So there.
All right, so what do I need to do?
Share screen.
Share screen.
And then the window will have a bunch of options.
Yep.
And you have to choose like share your whole screen or something like that.
Your
Not
desktop.
just share one page.
Desktop one.
Advanced, the one on the top that says advanced?
No, just the one that says desktop one.
Desktop one, that's what I was sharing.
Okay, and
That's what
oh, there we are. That's it. Isn't this the one? And then she's going to share. Go to your.
You're seeing me.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
You know what,
Should
Lisa?
I want me to do it? Want me to see if I can do it?
Yes.
Do it? Okay.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if I can, so I'm gonna share my, I'm not sharing just the screen. Am I sharing this?
Sharing the desktop.
I'm not sharing this. Yeah. Can you see
Yeah,
that? Okay.
exactly.
And then can you see this thing, the black bar, this toolbar?
No, she can't. We won't see that because EDCC doesn't have share Zoom windows on it. So I think the thing for
I'm
me to
sharing
do,
the whole whiteboard phone, ring center, I'm sharing.
let me, if it's
you
okay,
You're gonna
I
do
think
it?
what I'll
Okay.
do is take a screenshot and just share the pieces with you. I think that will be probably the easiest, just so I can show it. Okay. So I'm just going to share some screenshots with you. So when you click the breakout rooms, let me get to my share screen now. The tricky thing about screenshots is you have to open them to be able to show them to people. So give me a second. I'll just open them up.
It's a whole workshop just on this.
No, not at all. It's definitely worthwhile, I think, because it is something that creates agency and doesn't create agency. It fosters agency on the part of the learners. Okay, so here is you're looking right now at the screenshot that shows the breakout rooms, right? You see it, breakout room not start.
Right.
So the first thing you would do is you'd click on, you'd add the number of rooms you want, and then you'd rename them like I did, health, civics, whatever you know, blue, green, whatever the topic is that you want them to do. Okay.
Okay.
That's the first step.
Yep.
You then would, you get that. And then when you're setting up the rooms, I have to share one more time. New share. Okay, are you seeing the small one now?
Yes.
One? Okay. Then you would let participants choose room.
Yep.
So actually, I'm sorry, this is step one. Let participants choose room, identify how many rooms you want.
Oh, okay.
Okay, then you come to the other one that I showed you.
The rename one.
Yeah, and then you can always add rooms. So if you thought, oh, I'll only need 4, but then your students come in and you realize, oh, I need 5 rooms, you just add a room.
And you can do this before the class starts?
Yes, but not if you're going to do random rooms.
Right.
Right. So that's why I had to set that up in real time for you guys.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Does that?
Thank you. That's great. Thank you so much.